Have you ever wondered if you can play soccer in space? It's a thought that may have crossed your mind as you gazed up at the stars, or perhaps while watching your favorite team battle it out on the pitch. It's a tantalizing idea, isn't it? The beautiful game, played not on a grassy field, but in the boundless expanse of space. Imagine it, a game of soccer where the players are not bound by the laws of gravity, where the ball doesn't drop to the ground after a powerful kick, but continues on its trajectory until it collides with something, or someone. A game where the players don't run, but float, gliding effortlessly through the air. It's a vision that's as exciting as it is bewildering. But how would such a game work? How would the absence of gravity, a fundamental aspect of our daily lives, affect the game of soccer? Would we see more spectacular goals as players take advantage of their newfound ability to fly? Or would the game become a chaotic mess, with players and the ball constantly floating in different directions? And what about the strategies? In a game where the ball and the players are constantly in motion, how would teams strategize and coordinate their moves? Would the traditional formations and tactics still work, or would teams have to come up with new ones that are adapted to the unique conditions of space? These are the questions that we will try to answer in this video. We'll delve into the nitty-gritty of what a game of soccer in space could look like. We'll explore the physics of zero gravity and how it could impact the game. We'll discuss the potential challenges and opportunities that such a game could present. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Soccer without gravity. Now let's dive into the physics of it. Gravity is a key player in every soccer game on Earth. But what happens when it's not in the game? In a typical soccer game, gravity is the invisible hand guiding every kick, every bounce, every header. It's what keeps the player's feet firmly on the ground and the ball from flying off into the stratosphere. It gives weight to the ball, allowing it to drop back to the ground after a high kick or a bounce. It's such an integral part of the game that we don't even think about it. But in space, in the realm of zero gravity, all of that changes. Without gravity, the dynamics of the game would shift dramatically. For starters, the ball wouldn't drop back down after a kick or a bounce. Instead, it would continue moving in the direction it was kicked or thrown until it hit something. This is due to a concept known as inertia. Inertia is the tendency of an object to continue moving in a straight line at a constant speed unless acted upon by an external force. In space, without the force of gravity to pull it back down, a soccer ball would simply keep going. This means that a player would have to be very careful with their kicks, as a too strong kick could send the ball hurtling off into the distance. Furthermore, without gravity, the players themselves wouldn't be grounded. They would be floating around, and any movement could send them spinning or drifting away. This would make controlling and directing the ball much more difficult. It would be less about skill and strategy, and more about understanding and manipulating the physics of motion in a zero-gravity environment. In the end, a soccer game without gravity would be a very different experience. It would be less about the physical skill and more about understanding and manipulating the physics of motion. It would be less about kicking the ball into the goal, and more about navigating a three-dimensional environment with no up or down. Without gravity, a simple pass becomes a complex physics problem. Now, how about the soccer field? Can we have a traditional field in space? Well, here's where things get a little tricky. In a zero-gravity environment, a traditional flat pitch just won't cut it. We'd need a fully enclosed, spherical field to keep the ball and players from drifting off into the abyss. Creating this kind of field brings its own set of challenges. For starters, how do you mark boundaries in a three-dimensional sphere? And then there's the problem of ball containment. In space, the ball wouldn't simply fall to the ground when kicked. It would continue moving indefinitely until acted upon by an outside force. Think about it. An errant pass wouldn't just go out of bounds, it could literally go on forever. So, we'd need some kind of barrier or force field to keep the ball in play. A space soccer field would certainly look different from what we're used to. Imagine being a soccer player in space. How would you navigate the field and control the ball? It's a question that stirs the imagination, isn't it? Playing soccer in zero gravity presents a unique set of challenges that players on Earth never have to face. First off, let's consider movement. On Earth, players can run, jump, and kick with relative ease thanks to gravity. But in space, these actions would send players floating off in the opposite direction due to Newton's third law of motion. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. A powerful kick could send a player tumbling backward. Moving around the field would be more like flying than running. Then there's the issue of ball control. On Earth, the ball's trajectory is predictable. It follows a parabolic path, descending to the ground because of gravity. In space, however, the ball would continue in a straight line until acted upon by another force. Imagine trying to intercept a pass that's flying straight over your head, or attempting a header when the ball won't come down. Finally, we must consider the physical effects on the players' bodies. In zero gravity, muscles can atrophy and bones can lose density. Without the constant resistance of gravity, the human body starts to weaken. A soccer player in space would need to engage in regular strength training to counteract these effects. Moreover, the absence of gravity could also affect the player's sense of orientation, leading to disorientation and potentially space motion sickness. This could make performing complex maneuvers and maintaining a sense of direction in the field quite a challenge. Soccer, a game we've mastered on Earth, suddenly becomes a whole new ballgame when taken to space. It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? And it makes us appreciate the skills and agility of our favorite players even more. Space soccer would require a whole new set of skills and training. It's a game that's not just about physical strength and skill, but also spatial awareness and adaptability. In the end, playing soccer in space would be an out-of-this-world experience in more ways than one. So, could we actually play a soccer game in space? Let's circle back to the key points we've unpacked in this video. We've explored the fascinating notion of a hypothetical space soccer match, delved into the peculiar physics of zero gravity, and even tried to visualize what the playing field might look like. We've also pondered the unique challenges players would face, from mastering an entirely new skill set to adapting to an environment like nothing we've seen on Earth. Right now, with our current technology and understanding, the idea of a space soccer game might seem more like science fiction than a realistic prospect. Zero gravity would fundamentally alter the game as we know it, turning a sport defined by the ground beneath our feet into a three-dimensional spectacle. It's a thrilling concept, but it's also one fraught with complications. We'd need to develop entirely new equipment, from the ball to the uniforms. Players would have to train in a whole new way, learning to navigate in zero gravity and to control a ball that doesn't behave as it does on Earth. And that's not even touching on the logistical and safety issues of putting a team of athletes into space. But let's not discount the incredible strides we've made in space exploration and technology. We've put humans on the moon, sent probes to distant planets, and even have plans to colonize Mars. Who's to say what's possible in the future? Perhaps one day we'll see the first space soccer league, with teams from across the globe competing in zero gravity. However, until then, we'll have to content ourselves with the beautiful game here on terra firma. After all, soccer is a game that's as much about the fans in the stands as it is about the players on the pitch. For now at least, those stands are firmly rooted on Earth. Space soccer may be a far-off dream, but who knows what the future holds. Until then, we'll have to keep our games grounded on Earth.